viewer contributions make local programming possible on WNIN. Become a member of WNIN with your contribution so we can continue to make this programming available. Visit WNIN.org and click on the donate button.
We'll learn about the latest travel trends, tips, and staycation suggestions next on WNIN Newsmakers. Welcome in. I'm Jessica Costello, evening news anchor for Eyewitness News. As families plan out their travel for next year, it may be helpful to know what the latest travel trends look like. And to talk all about that, Tracy Wilson from Touristy joins us now, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. First of all, I want to talk about what Touristy is and when it started.
So Touristy is a guided group travel company. I've been working in the industry for 14 years.
Okay.
Touristy actually opened in 2019. So we've been sending travelers all around the world on planned itineraries all over. So
14 years is a long time to watch trends probably drastically change. Can you talk about how that's changed over the years?
Sure. And of course, can't speak to that without speaking to the pandemic and world events, elections. So travel has always been steady. Of course, these past couple of years have been phenomenal in terms of numbers of travelers, experiences, getting out of their comfort zone and just doing more exotic, more immersive types of travel that they wouldn't have before, more of a comfort level.
In staying in present day, what kind of travel trends are you seeing now?
People are ready to go, they're willing to go. They are looking for things that they haven't done or going to locations that they've been to before, but experiencing them in a different way. So for instance, instead of just going to see the classic sites in Italy, they're looking to have a cooking class or to stay in a boutique hotel instead of a regular hotel. Just really getting into things that aren't the normal, going off the beaten path.
You talk about all these trends and people, willing and able to go out at this point. And it's interesting because we hear a lot of talks about the economy and how some people are struggling and whatnot, and then you bring up COVID. Do you think that there is some correlation there where people may be struggling on the ends of like groceries and things like that, but they still want to make a vacation happen because that's their piece during the year, and they will do anything to make that happen? Do you see any correlation there with COVID and missing those years of travel where they want to continue trying to get that back in their life?
Right, most definitely. I think what we learned is tomorrow, the experiences that we have aren't guaranteed.
Yeah, right.
In a week or a month, things change, and I know that people, regardless of the situation that they're in, again, it's about experiencing life. Travel is a big part of that. Getting out of comfort zones and getting out of the day-to-day, and just
Absolutely.
really wanting to go out and not just travel for vacation, but I'm seeing a lot of people who are working remotely. They can work from anywhere in the world. Technology has allowed that. So a lot of people are mixing their vacation and their travel with their work and easily able to do it.
And what about hot destinations right now? Are there any, I think we have like some destinations that we're like, okay, there's always going to be tourism there, but are there some surprising ones out there now?
Sure. So Australia, New Zealand is coming back.
Okay.
Yes, that's one that people usually save to the last, but now they are saying, hey, it's time to go.
What about that area? If people are watching and they don't know much about that area, what about that area is driving people there?
It's just stunningly beautiful, especially New Zealand. A lot of people will go, oh, I can't wait, I'm going to Australia and New Zealand, and they're all excited about New Zealand, or Australia, but then they get back and then they talk about New Zealand. And if anybody has watched the Lord of the Rings movies and the vast, beautiful, stunning scenery, that's New Zealand.
Yeah. Well, you're an expert on this, so tell us, what should people be considering when they are planning a vacation? Especially also, I want to touch on if you're leaving the country, there's a whole other plethora of things that you have to be thinking about then, but what should people really be honing in on before their trip?
So one is planning or pre-planning, because we've talked about people going, and that means that there's limited availability, limited air seats, hotel space, restaurant space, sites and attractions, getting tickets. So planning early is vital. You're also going to get better rates when you plan ahead. So plan ahead, look what you want to do. Preparation. Does a location need a visa? Does it need of course, if you're traveling internationally, a passport, making sure your passport hasn't expired. Do you need to renew? How do you need to renew? So there's just a lot of details. That's the pre-part, knowing what you need to have. And then when you're on tour, so many elements come together to make a perfect trip. Getting to the destination, whether by car or by air, making sure you're giving yourself plenty of time. Once you arrive, how are you going to get, say, from the airport to the hotel? How are you going to get from point A to point B? Is there going to be traffic? That's kind of where guided group travel comes in, because we take care of all of those details that somebody else is piecing together and hoping that they're making it mesh and come together perfectly. We take care of all of that, and really they come in, they say where they want to go, we give them itineraries, and then of course we discuss if they want air upgrades. That's something to consider too.
Yeah.
I'll mention things like TSA pre-check and global entry, and for anybody who doesn't know, they can always contact us, and it makes travel easier getting through security in airports. And of course we talk about air travel, having patience, that pre-planning, knowing to get to the airport in plenty of time, even if it means you get to your gate and you have to sit for a while.
Yes, and that's not a bad thing, because you'd rather be waiting than running to your gate.
And I have seen those situations where people, and then they barely make their flight, or they don't make their flight.
Right.
And that's an expensive mistake.
And when you hear all this, especially if maybe you're planning to leave the country for the first time, this could be overwhelming to hear all of the things that you need to do. So I want to go back to how Touristy helps, because how does that process work with your clients? Do they come in and they sit down and tell you what they all want in their vacation, or do you end up recommending some things, or how involved are your clients in the process of planning their own vacation?
It's a mixture of both of those. Some people know exactly what they want to do. I've been dreaming of going to this destination. These are the things I want to see. We look at itineraries that match that. Other people will come in. I'll have someone say, I want to go to Europe. And that's when we really hone in and say, okay, what are you looking to get out of the experience? So Europe has quite a lot of different travel opportunities just to figure out if it's a first-time traveler to Europe, maybe, Italy or Ireland or England, where it's English-speaking, maybe just getting in there and getting that comfort level, and then maybe moving on to more exotic things, Croatia, Iceland, those types of things.
And when you're talking about, maybe not obviously leaving the country, but when we're talking about modes of transportation, there's a lot of them. But we usually think about flying, because that might be the quickest. It's probably a little more pricey depending on where your destination is. But what other modes of transportation do you feel like people should consider if they're not going out of the country or they're not going that far away?
Right. So, of course, there's always, road trips, traveling by car. And, just making sure, again, that when you plan that itinerary, you're giving yourself plenty of time, looking at construction, looking at time zones, that you're taking into account the changes in times. Of course, there's, train, there's cruises, river cruising in the United States and Europe. In New England, there's opportunities out west, lots of train excursions, in the Northeast during fall foliage is a phenomenal time to be on a train going through the mountains. And then, of course, out west, Colorado, Durango, doing those epic historical trains.
And then when we kind of go back to flying, you talking about how this, there's going to bring in a lot of people during the holiday season. We know that this is a popular travel season, but the airports are probably going to be filled. And like you mentioned, getting there early is going to be key. But what kind of tips can you give people that maybe even traveling for the first time, or maybe just even their second time, and they're not expecting as many people, or what have you? What kind of tips can you give them to maybe just stay on top of their travel plans and make sure they're not late to their gate, or making sure that they're staying on top of changes to their their plans? What kind of tips can you provide?
Sure. So technology helps a great deal in that. There are apps, airline apps. The companies that we work with, some of them have apps that download the whole itinerary. They will notify you of gate changes. They will notify you of delays or any issues at all with air. The main thing is to don't download that app the night before. Get familiar with it, look at it, check on things, continually check on your itinerary in case things change at last minute, because they do. And then once you have all those things in place, you've got your itinerary. Some people will go completely mobile. Some people like to print out their boarding passes beforehand and like to have that paper. Regardless, make sure you're prepared for that. And then when you're in the airport, patience, just patience.
Patience is key.
There will be a lot of people, just know that. Patience and kindness. Losing your temper over a situation will not help. It will probably hinder your situation. Getting through security, we see people doing that mad dash. If you've prepared and you're there in plenty of time, you don't have to be throwing,
running and sweating before your flight.
Throwing that thing, hoping that you remember to grab everything off of there. And just agents that are there, security officers, kindness, patience and kindness.
That is obviously the most important part of this, because it will be packed and there will be stressful situations. So patience and kindness, we definitely want to stress. If people do use a travel agency and something goes wrong with their flight, maybe something's canceled or delayed, for some reason they missed their flight, do they have to go back to the travel agency to express what happened, or do they then work with the customer service in the airport? How does that work?
So depending on the situation. When we send our travelers out, they get travel tips. A lot of times we'll have a meeting, we'll go through those travel tips, talk about currency voltage, getting through security. But one of the key components of those travel tips is having an emergency number. If you're having an air situation, the first line of fixing something is actually working with the airlines, a misconnection so that they can reroute you. Then, of course, with our travelers, if that doesn't work, or if it's a situation they're going to arrive late, then contacting those emergency numbers. But yes, regardless of whether they go through an individual agent, just that pre-planning and preparing, ask those questions of your agent. If something happens, who do I contact? And make sure you have that information before you leave, so it's not a panic situation if something arises.
Right, and we are hoping that everyone watches gets to their destination safely, and everybody has patience and kindness.
And most do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, most situations are just fine and run smoothly.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just enjoy the travels. That's the part sometimes, the transportation, the getting there and returning, but it's that middle part. It's that experience. That's the most important thing, and that's why we do travel. That's why we plan is to really see the world and see our surroundings here in the area, and just enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
This holiday season, the Evansville Regional Airport has a few tips that should help make your flights as smooth as possible. First, you should not wrap your presents when flying. You should wrap them when you get to your destination. They also say to make sure to double check your bags and know everything that's in them. EVV's November travel numbers showed a 21% increase from 2023, so arriving early for your flight is a good idea. Passengers who need a special accommodation should call ahead for services and make sure to check TSA.gov and your airline carrier's website or app for the latest travel information. Our next guests are from Explore Evansville to explain some staycation options if you're looking to stay home for the holidays. Kate Reibel, Director of Marketing and Development, and Colin Dame, Marketing and Communications Manager. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Staycations are some of the best for people, because if they just got done traveling right before the holidays, they probably do want to stay home and maybe just enjoy the peace and quiet. But there's plenty of things to do here. So let's go over the options for staycation. I know it's very broad, but what does it look like around our area?
Oh, there are so many things to do here. And it's exciting to talk to people about staycation ideas, because I don't think that's always their first thought.
Right.
You can stay home if you're looking to save a little money. If you have, you're entertaining people, maybe it's just easier to be in your own home. But we also encourage people, instead of staying at home, maybe look at getting an Airbnb. We know that pile in the corner that you haven't dealt with can be a little distracting. And when you get out of your home, you can really relax and enjoy. There are Airbnbs in historic downtown. There are some that have indoor pools. I mean, you can really just have a lot of fun. And there are other options like go to a full-service hotel and really relax. Somewhere like Bally's, where you can have dining and entertainment on site.
When we talk about staycations, I think people want some kind of change of scenery, and that's why they get away, right? They want to see something new. But I would argue that there are probably places in the tri-state that people haven't seen, even if they've lived here for some years. So what are some ways that people can get a change of scenery but still stay local?
You are exactly right. There are so many undiscovered gems in Evansville that maybe you went to on the 4th grade field trip, but it's time to go back and revisit them. Places like Angel Mounds that have just had a new interpretive center open where they show the perspective of the native tribes versus the archaeologists. So it's a really interesting take. I bet a lot of people haven't been out there. Walk out on the grounds. It's a fantastic, relaxing place to be.
And they just recently discovered that there is some alignment with the stars and the solstices. So kind of going out there and seeing how those mounds might line up with the solstice, the summer solstice, the winter solstice alignment.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting and interesting, and it's kind of fascinating to know that they've figured that out years and years and years ago.
Thousands of years ago
And
that they were tracking things that were happening in the sky.
It's right in our backyard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful and scenic.
Do you guys know if that's something that people have to plan in advance, or is that one of those walk-in things and experience that day?
You can walk in, I believe they're closed Monday and Tuesday, but go in any other time and walk around the interpretive center and walk the grounds.
I know we just brought up one, obviously Angel Mounds, but when you're thinking must-sees around the Evansville area, what comes to mind first?
A couple of things for me. One has to be the downtown riverfront and the LST. I have been on that tour several times personally, and I learn something new every time I'm there. There's always something fascinating, a new piece of information that they share based on which tour guide you get. And then I would be remiss if I didn't suggest that people go to the zoo, not necessarily to walk around the grounds, but warm up in Amazonia, because it is such a fun, amazing place to visit. Colin, you were just there taking some video. And what are some of the animals that you saw while you were there?
It's really cool. They have a Beliza. She's a jaguar. She's gorgeous. She was moving around while I was there, so I got to see her active. She was looking to be fed, so that was really cool.
What time of the day did you go? Because I think that's what people want to know.
That's important. Yeah, I think I was there around maybe 11 in the morning, and then I ended up going to the back of that. So it's probably around noon by the time I got through the whole exhibit.
It's a good lunch thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's howler monkeys in there. That was really cool to see. There's a little a younger howler monkey, and he was really active, climbing everywhere. And you can just kind of go in the winter. There's a lot of plants in there to look at. They have a huge,
beautiful, all of the orchids and the absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, they have a huge botanical team that takes care of that whole room. It's just really something to see. They had howler monkeys, jaguars, armadillos. There was a tarantula, if you're feeling adventurous, some bats to look at. Definitely an exhibit you have to see.
Everybody.
There is truly,
Absolutely.
And when you think about the zoo, I think everybody thinks about how cold it's getting and they'll have to walk a lot, but there are truly, when you get in there are places that you can stop in, warm up, and then go to your next exhibit. So I think
don't forget about the zoo in these winter months.
Absolutely, yes. What are some other must-sees that you're thinking?
My personal favorite is the one I'm most excited about recently is the Picasso. Just a beautiful, exciting exhibit that we get. It's not every day you get to see a Picasso, and you can here in Evansville any day you want, because it's ours and it's in our backyard here.
It's amazing.
At the Evansville Museum, so it's wonderful.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll even have classes. If you have kids that you're looking to entertain, they'll have some science classes, something hands-on. There's a little something for everybody at the museum. You can go look at the Picasso, you can go to the planetarium and see the star show. Really great for the whole family.
Yeah, well, you bring up kids, and that's important here for families, because if you're doing a staycation, you have kiddos at home, you're thinking about how can I entertain the kids.
Absolutely.
The good thing about Evansville is I feel like Evansville has some kind of event or festival or something going on, especially downtown. So do you have something on the top of your mind you guys can talk about when it comes to kids and families?
Yeah, SEMO.
Yes, perfect.
They always have wonderful activities. As you mentioned, something going on almost every day. They have hands-on things as well. I know they're doing a little bit of revamping and construction. So if people want to get in there and see all their favorite exhibits now, that would be a great time.
In food is a big part of this.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Evansville has great food, and Evansville and beyond, we have great food around here.
Yes,
We're
we
spoiled
do.
around this area.
Yes.
But if there are people that, again, want to make a staycation a little bit different and maybe want to get a taste of a different area and they don't want just the burger and fries, although that's a good option, where can they go to get the taste of somewhere else?
Some of my favorite spots, Second Language downtown is
Mine too. That's
one
my
of my
favorite.
favorite spots. One of my favorite things to get there is the spicy miso ramen, but their broth is delicious. It's bone broth. It's made right there. It's delicious. They've got steak chimichurri. If you're not really into ramen, you could definitely go for the steak chimichurri option. That's one of my favorites. It's a great go-to. And don't skip out on the miso butter toast at the end. It is absolutely to die for. It's one of my favorite desserts ever.
And very different, a different
Yes.
flavor,
Yeah.
a different taste, something
Yeah.
a little unique.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
not your typical ice cream.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's very different. Their menu is great. But when we're talking about, are there other restaurants you want to talk about too?
Yeah, Pangea is also a really good option. You could get anything from pizza to roasted vegetables to Thai drunken noodles. So it's really a good way. If you're feeling a lot of different options, you can definitely go that route. And there's something for everybody there. It's one of my favorite spots as well.
Absolutely.
We could talk about food.
Oh, I
all
know.
day
This
long.
could be its own segment.
Because there is just so much. Someplace I know you and I both love is Noche on the west side on Franklin Street. They have delicious traditional food, but it's modern and updated. It's been fantastic when I've been.
You guys are naming all my favorites, so I'm just sitting here like, yep, I need to go get that now.
Sauced, if you want Italian. I mean, sauced is such a great staple here.
And it's historic.
Get the half and half. You can have fettuccine and spaghetti. It's delicious. It's elevated. It's not your traditional, and that's why we recommend.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, is there a place where people can maybe go online and look at all this information, a collective maybe website or pamphlet or PDF or whatever it is, where people can go and look at the attractions, the food, all of the things that they may be wanting to plan their staycation with?
I'm so glad you asked. You can go to exploreevansville.com and you can see all of the attractions, events going on in our city, as well as restaurants and dining options.
Okay, and another really cool thing is the attraction pass. And what I'm hearing and understanding is that this doesn't have to be a yearly commitment and it can be just a weekend thing. Talk to me about what the attraction pass is and how people can really finagle it so that it fits their staycation.
Sure. So this is a fantastic option to bundle admission to 7 different museums and attractions in Evansville. That includes our museums, the zoo, the LST. It's a great opportunity. If you have one day to explore and you get an attraction pass, you can go to as many places as you can. You can buy a 3-day pass so you can explore over a weekend. And if you're just not sure when you're going to be able to do it, get a 90-day pass. So over the winter months, you can go and explore all these places.
And the good thing about it is that you can gift this. This is a great gift as well.
This is a fantastic gift. Think about giving it to a grandparent so that they can take grandkids somewhere. Think about giving it to someone who's new to the city and who maybe wants to explore and see what Evansville is all about. It's a fantastic way to see everything. You don't have to download any apps. It's so easy. You just go online, make a purchase, and they scan it at every museum.
And one more time, how can people get there and purchase that?
Absolutely. ExploreEvansville.com. Scroll down, and there's a link right there on the homepage.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guests for joining us to learn more about travel trends and local attractions. Next week, we'll get an update on local road projects. I'm Jessica Costello, evening news anchor for Eyewitness News. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.